I know that everybody's talked about it. I actually have avoided it up until this point, not because it wasn't a great article, but I don't know. I mean, it's tough to really know what's speculation and what's true, but there definitely is probably some truth there. I mean, Mike Silver is very well connected. I know that people have been pissed at him in the past for his takes, but he's been spot on in a lot of these instances. So he says that there's a big possibility that big changes are coming the 49ers way and that they are going to evaluate some of the aging players that are big contributors and might have to make some tough decisions. I'm paraphrasing, but that's how I remember the article as I read it. So, Larry, I'll start with you. Do you think that there is anything to this? And if there was a big change, what would that big change be to you?
I maybe Eric Armstead. I think Eric Armstead is in that maybe Hughes check, but Armstead to me seems like he's the leader of the room. I mean, he really is the leader of the team. I know a lot of people be like, "What, Eric Armstead?" No, he is. He's really the respected voice in the room. So I think they're debating whether or not to bring him back. He wasn't the same player late in the year because of the plantar fasciitis, the torn meniscus. I think that's who we're talking about here. I can't even picture anybody else. Maybe we're talking about Juszczyk. Maybe we're talking about a Brendel, but I think that's a conversation. I think that is the 49ers saying, you know what? Eric Armstead makes a lot of money. He's been hurt. How many more years is he going to play? What do we do there? Do we move on from Eric Armstead? So I think it's about Armstead, maybe even Hargrave. But Hargrave's set contract makes him difficult to part with, I believe, this year. Armstead to me is the guy that's like, very respected, and to move him out of the room would be a huge, huge move. And I don't even know who you'd replace him with, but there's a chance that Armstead would be that guy. I think it's about Armstead. And I do think, the 49ers should be, whether Silver is reading the tea leaves or if he literally has a source that told him this, I think it's totally reasonable to believe that they need some significant turnover. You don't want to get stale. And also, you don't want to get a whole room full of guys who have played all these extra playoff games. So then that's how you get a tired, beat up, expensive team. So I think it probably is Armstead.
Interesting. Vish, what do you think?
Yeah, my bad. I was just kind of reading through the article because I didn't get a chance to get to it as we were going. Did you guys already know that Jeff Ulbrich was 100% out? It seems that in the article, Wilkes has said that he wasn't, or Silver, excuse me, has said that he wasn't inclined or obligated, or Saleh wasn't inclined or obligated to let him go. So he's 100% out.
Right.
And then,
right.
Would be.
And then the second thing I noticed, because I feel like you guys, we did a show 2 weeks ago where I feel like I voiced, and Jesse, you and I voiced this conversation exactly. And we talked about a couple of the names that have been here since 2017 and were huge parts of implementing this culture on the offensive side of the ball that, maybe there's one of those guys in the tight end, George Kittle, right? He has some direct contribution in the 3rd and 4, the most egregious play of the game. Myself would argue that his mistake on that play is the most understated one, which is the fact that he busted the protection. The left tackle squeezes if that's a 5-man protection. You're going to take the person that's closest to the quarterback, which is the nickel. He didn't squeeze, which means it was a 6-man protection. George Kittle's got to pick up the nickel. So there's one. He would be the one. Juszczyk would be the other. But as Larry said, I don't really see a financially flexible position where they're going to get rid of these guys similar to how they've gotten rid of guys in the past. They're going to have to eat a couple of bullets to get rid of one of these guys because they've given them consistent extensions and backloaded so many of their deals. So that would be what I would say. But to me, there has to be a slight culture change too. And I don't mean tweak the full culture and tweak the setup. I'm just talking about have different voices be prominent for your team. Kittle, Juszczyk, these guys have been the voices of the team for so long. I think that there's a little bit of staleness to their message, given that, especially Kittle, he's consistently sometimes hurt. He's also available this year. He has a very good year, but he's hurt at times. And then he's just been a part of a lot of losing big games recently. And I feel like having a little bit of fresh leadership tweaks the identity of the team, right? We felt like the team was so similar 2024 to 2020 or 2019 in both Super Bowl games, even though there were so many differences to the team, because the identity felt the same. The leadership felt the same. The culture of the team, the vibe of the team felt the same. I think you can do the Seattle thing that I've talked about where, hey, build this team around Purdy. This is their Legion of Boom moment to me. These are their guys. This is 2017 for Richard Sherman and 2017 for Earl Thomas and 2017 for Cam Chancellor. You can continue this going by building around this young, exciting quarterback. New leadership with him. Empower him to be your leader. Empower Brandon Ayuk, who's a young ascending player. Give him a contract and do that. So I think that there's ways you can tweak this team and have this team feel different while still having it be very good and not feeling like, okay, we're the same exact place that we were the last 4 years, where this team is really good, but there's something that we know is going to happen and they're going to, fall short.
I think this whole thing is really interesting because the 49ers are at a real crossroads here. I think the obvious thing when you look at the contracts is, well, I mean, for the most part, you're going to add to it through the draft. Maybe you can go get a guy through free agency. But for the most part, the core is going to be the core, and you're going to hope that that is somehow enough when it hasn't been the previous 4 or 5 years, what have you. So financially, that's what is kind of all over the tea leaves. But the 49ers, if they want to get anything for any of these guys, now's kind of the final year to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you wait till next year and Kittle's 1 year older and Armstead's 1 year older and Debo's 1 year older, these are not guys you're going to be able to trade for really anything. So if you want to get anything in return, you have to make the tough decision, as Silver kind of points out. Hey, there's going to be tough decisions that have to be made in order to recoup something in return. And they're in a situation where it's like, yes, they do want to win now, and these guys are important to winning now, but they also have to remain flexible for Brock Purdy and Ayuk, Warner, Bosa, some of the younger core in the future. It's a very interesting time. To me, I tend to agree with you, Vish. I mean, I'd rather do it a year early than a year late. Mm-hmm. You can't financially do it with everybody, but whether it's Armstead, like Larry pointed out, or Kittle, like you pointed out, I do think that it would be smart, or it would behoove them to choose one guy to bite the bullet on, take that cap hit because they're going to have that rollover from last year, take that cap hit, turn it into a draft pick, maybe sign a cheaper free agent at another position of need, and then use that draft pick to try to replace whoever it is that they've traded away and remain flexible in the future. I think that would be very smart. Also keeps them competitive this year, doesn't take them out of a Super Bowl by any means, but helps them prepare for the future. I love the idea.
Or you remove the star power and increase the depth of the team, right? You get a draft pick and a young player, maybe not a guy who's, starting or whatever, but a guy who can become a starter. I do feel like this team got a little top heavy by the end of the year. I don't know how you felt, but I think a year later, them being even more top heavy might not be the answer, especially given that this was, I really felt like, guys, this was if there was a team that was going to do it, it was this one. I felt like they had all of the ingredients and they didn't do it. I don't want to see them run this back exactly how it is.
Well, the other thing that I got to add here is that just like the Niners do their end of the year evaluation, I do the same thing. I look at, all the numbers, and then I go look at all the playoff games. Mm-hmm. And when I did that exercise, what I came away with that I really didn't like, but it was right there and I couldn't deny it, is that the 49er defensive line got pushed around all year long. They got pushed around in the preseason. Their run numbers were all tied to getting big leads. Anybody who ran the ball for 4 quarters had success. Down the stretch, they got pushed around. They never really stopped anybody in short yardage or on the goal line. They got pushed around. And Eric Armstead is the defensive tackle on this defense. So he got pushed around, and then his body's failing him, and he's an older guy. And I just think that when they do their end of the year evaluation the way I did, they're going to be like, our D line needs some glass cutters. Nick Bosa is really good, but is he super tough and nasty? I don't know. To me, he's more of a workout guy than super tough and nasty. They need some tough glass cutters on their defensive line. I'm not saying Armstead's not it, but when you factor in his age, his cost, and what that film showed, I think he's the guy they're going to point to and say, we can upgrade.